Hi, you guys, it's me, Marcy Lamberson, and today we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to make some summertime gnomes. Now, I know a lot of you have done my other gnome tutorial, which we used more for the holidays in the wintertime, like Christmas or something like that. But now I thought we would take it another step further. Not only are we doing a new season, but we're going to change up their clothes, add some accessories for them, and I kind of wanted to get you thinking in how to design your own in a different way. So, how about if I turn this around, hook us in, and we can get started? Thanks. Hang on. Okay, so here we go. I just need to get this put in properly, and let's make it a little closer. And of course, I always need to check to see where my hands go. Well, I know where they go. It's just how far can they go so that you can see what I'm doing. Let me grab my lighter and we'll get started. Okay, so one of the things before we start, we usually talk just a tiny bit. And I've been kind of on a gnome kick and wanting them to hold things or look a little bit differently. So like here's one that I made, and see, I gave him a stick with a marshmallow on it. So he's been roasting marshmallows. And there's a back view, just kind of give you an idea of something different. And this one is a little different than the ones I taught you before also, not only for holding something, but also that he's got little feet sticking out as if he's sitting down. So there's one to show you. Now let me get a couple more. Now this one is summery also, and he has a little bird on his hand. He's wearing polka dotted shoes, and he has a flower on his green hat instead of a red one. So there's another option. And I've got two more that come almost as a set, which have been cracking me up. I couldn't help myself, but I made some for our British friends also. And you can see there's some sort of jubilee coming up. I think it's a platinum one. And my goodness, she just makes me smile every time I look at her. So there's some other gnome figurines. So you can turn them into people that you know or celebrities. You can kind of do a take on them. I think it's rather funny. Okay, so those are some different ones, just to kind of give you an idea that you can get away from the red hats or the colored hats that you normally do. I thought today we would make vacationing gnomes. Oh, and maybe we'll have them wearing summer clothes. That's what I've been thinking, and maybe some details, wearing some accessories also. And we'll just have to see. Oftentimes, I have these all figured out as to what I'm going to do, and today I'm kind of winging it, which is the way I generally work. I should have warned you. So I thought I have my ivory, of course, for any body parts. I have some encased white stringer for his beard, because I want him to have a beard. I thought one of these would make a good shirt. This is Coral, Effitre, and Zachary, which is Creation is Messy, which is pretty much like a light periwinkle that we have. I have a little light aqua that's Effitre, some green grass, and a plethora, I love that word, of brightly colored stringers that are kind of tropical. So that's what I have to work with. A touch of pink for cheeks if I decide to do that. And we're going to make something from there. So I always start off with the bottom part of it. I don't do feet first, but I do legs first. And those are kind of like a cone shape without a pointy tip on them. And let's see, so he's going to need some swimming trunks. And I think maybe some dark periwinkle might be kind of pretty for those. So I've heated my 332nd mandrel, and for me, I use the Dip and Go Blue Sludge Ultra, or whatever the correct term is these days. I don't know. It's the blue one, and it's Dip and Go, and it kind of hangs on like concrete, so I like it a lot. So I'm starting off just with a basic bead, just the way we always do, where I hold my glass rod perpendicular to my mandrel while I'm turning my mandrel away from me. And don't forget, I kind of forget to tell you sometimes, that I'm waiting for this to cool before I show you because you can see how warm it is still. I work so the head's up here and the feet are down here, so that when I hold it up to look at it, when the glass is cool enough, I see it the way I would see it if it were hanging and being worn or displayed. So I work top to bottom vertically, with the top always being at this end and the bottom always being at this end. And I say always, and I am sure that once in a while there's something that I do that's different, but I would say almost always then that's the way I do it. So we're adding just a little bit more glass because I like him nice and sturdy on the bottom, and I always put his top so that it overlaps this. It's going to start up here, so I need enough width for his legs down at the bottom. I have a little bit more of this glass, so we'll add just a tiny bit more and widen it a tiny bit because he's going to have some girth. I mean, when you're on vacation, you gotta have a little girth, because you gotta have room for the ice creams and the fruity drinks that have little swizzle sticks in them and stuff like that. A vacation's pretty important. So I'm heating up the end of this. You see, I just have a little bit of this left, and I'm going to pull a little bit of it, so it's kind of like an emergency stringer. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling it slowly, and I'm making like a little tiny handle if I need to use the rest of that glass, because I don't see that I have more of it sitting on my table. This way, as it cools, I have a little handle that I can hold on to, and then I have all of this glass I can work with. The other thing I could do is attach it to another glass rod. That would be another option. But I just did that just in case we need it. We may or may not, but I like having it available. Okay, so we need a shirt that flowers are going to show on, because I want to give them a tropical shirt. How about if we use this coral? Oh, this is a pretty one. You see how you can look on the very end of it? You see the different colors on it? When you look at a coral, I always look to see whether it's got some of the pinky stuff that I love. And please excuse me, I need to cough for a second. There we go. My studio looks out into my backyard, and we've put up 2 bird baths. So while I'm talking to you, I'm watching the birds. Well, I'm paying more attention to you, but I also, out of the corner of my eye, like to watch the birds in the bird bath. They always make me smile. Okay, so I'm going to go over the top, and we're going to go up a little higher for the basics for the shirt. So I'm starting here and just doing a single wrap around and making sure that it's relatively even, and then I'll start working my way up from there, and we will marver it a little bit later. So let's go over the top of the periwinkle, and this is 420 coral from Effitre. Now here's the thing with 420 coral, which is the number for it. I always remember it because it's kind of an easy number to remember. But anyhow, when they make it, oftentimes it looks different each time. It's handmade, and it seems like they never do the exact same batch over and over again. So whenever I get a chance, I buy a little bit more coral. And that way I've got a variety, because some corals are lighter, some are more orangey, some are more red, some are darker, some are lighter, and it's kind of fun to have a variety of all of it. So I went over the top, and now I'm touching down onto the mandrel. It's like another cone. So I started with a cone for the legs, and then I went over the top with another cone. And this is going to be the base of his shirt. So for his shirt, we're going to do some flowers on it. And before I add the arms and all of that, I figured let's get the pattern on while it's nice and easy like this. So what I'm going to do is make a couple of flowers across the top of it. And I have some turquoise and different colors. And we're just going to make little dots and flowers and leaves and stuff like that. Kind of the way a Hawaiian shirt goes. We have the bright color on the back, so I'm doing some petals. And 3 petals, 5 petals, whatever you like, 2 petals, 4 petals, whatever. I just put 3 dots and pulled them out for that one. And then a bright center, and you can do the center of the same color of the pants. You can do another color that makes it show up, an orange, a pink. Oh, let's do pink. Why not? So I'll do a pink center on this one. And let's add some bright green for leaves. Why not? The leaves are just going to be dots that are pulled out also. And we're going to go around, we're going to make some bright little flowers. So go around and pick your colors and have fun with it. I did a pink center on that one, so I'm going to do another one that's pink dots. And I'm leaving them raised. Have you ever twisted them? It's so much fun twisting dots. So what I do is I let them raised, and then I get a stringer and I heat up just the dots. And the stringer stays cool. The dots are warm but not melted in, and I just press it in the middle and twist. You see how I did that? Just twisted and then flame cut. See how you get a cute little flower that way? That's another style of flower. They can be dots, they can be twisties. Let's add a couple of leaves on this one. And who says that gnome shirts need to have the flowers melted in? Do whatever you want. You can add some vines. You can, okay, so a vine, or you could do big leaves. You can do anything you want. So we've got 2 flowers on there. I think we need some more. Why not? Let's add some purple because I have it. Purple's fun. This is ink blue over periwinkle. So let's do a 5 petal flower this time. 1. And then I'm going to do 2 at the bottom, almost as if I'm making a letter A, capital A. Those are all still raised, and then I'll do some out as if there were arms to it, and that way I get all 5 petals in. And I see that I need to keep this warm, because you know what happens? We start getting all excited about what we're making, and then we forget to keep the rest of it warm. So I'm expecting you to keep yours warm while you're decorating. Okay, so we've got 5 raised dots. We're going to heat them up one at a time and pull them to the center. So there's 1, and I'm just pulling with the end of the rod. And I pull it in just to the center, let it cool, wiggle it. This is funny because it's getting my cord that attaches my microphone is getting in the middle of this. Get the second one, pull it to the center, pause, let it cool, wiggle, 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 and it's off. Now, in between, I'm going to go and heat up the rest of the bead, because if I forget to take care of it, I'm going to be really sorry. So now I'm going underneath the bead again. See how I'm heating up just that 1 dot and pulling it to the center. pausing, and then wiggle. Next one, heat from underneath, just that one. Pull it to the center, pause, wiggle. Sounds like it should be a dance, doesn't it? The flower dance. Heat from underneath, I'm not sure about that as a dance. Pull to the center, pause, give it a wiggle, boom. So we have a flower there. And you can make it a little prettier perhaps by pushing down the petals a bit. I push to the outside for the petals. That keeps them rounder and skinnier to the middle, and then I'll add a dot for the center of it. So now we have a purple flower, and let's add a yellow center because we can. So we've got just about every color on here now. I think we're going to need to make these flowers have some cohesiveness. I like that flower a lot. And it's going to need some leaves also. And I have this two-tone green I'm going to heat up and add some big old leaves on it too. So I'm just going in towards the flower where the petals meet and add a little leaf. And see, when you have the two colors, you get the two colors on the leaf and it looks really cool. Let's do this on the other side. Same thing. Heat up the bead in between. And we're just going out and pushing. And we got a leaf that goes that way too. Two tones. I like it. Okay, so I'm going to take a skinny green stringer and let's connect some of these flowers so that there's a little bit of cohesiveness. We'll add a little vine. Have them attached. That way we can add a few more leaves and stuff like that. And then you pick the flower you like the least, and that's where you put the beard over. You can handle that. Okay, so now we can add a little bit of some of these colors in here just to kind of tie things together a bit. So we can add a couple little dots that look kind of like berries or little flowers. Let's make these this is turquoise. We're going to make it a little smaller. So lucky you hear how I think, and it's not always the most logical, but it makes sense to me, and that's how I design beads. It's just kind of like what's fun, what makes sense, what will tie things together, what solves any problems that I have going on. So this one, it needed a little unification, didn't it? And those extra little berries helped. Okay, so he's got plenty of flowers on his shirt now. And he's going to need one of these colors probably as a hat. We probably need to tie it all together. And he's going to need sleeves at some point too, and a nose. So the next thing I want to do is decide what do I want to show up the most out of these. And I really like the purple flower the best. But it's not going to show up well on his front because his beard comes down there. So what's on the opposite side? Oh, this is good. If I put the beard down this way, then you'll see a little bit of this flower, a little bit of this flower, but not too much because he's going to need sleeves and arms coming down also. So I think we solved it. The prettiest one is going to go on the back so it will be able to be seen. So next, we're going to decide on the hat color. I think this, which is a slightly lighter version than the pants, will work very well. So let's start with some of this, just getting a base on it so I know approximately how high it's going to go. We're going to start wrapping it. And again, I attach it to the existing cone that's his shirt. And I start making my hat cone now. So it's almost like 3 cones fitting inside of each other when you're making this gnome, isn't it? I've got my base, and we'll start adding the rest on. I'm just going around and around and around. Now you might notice that my flame is rather small. I think I have better control when I'm making flowers that way, and I highly recommend it. But of course, you can work however you prefer. I like being able to watch the color of my glass to see what color it is while I'm working, because then I know how hot it is as I'm working with it. And I'm just starting with the bottom part of the hat. It's going to be larger and probably longer, but this kind of gives me an idea of colors together, and it gives me a place to figure out where I'm putting the nose, and then I can always add on to it some more afterwards. It looks funny without a face attached, doesn't it? Okay, so I think I decided that I was going to do the face somewhere around there. I wanted that turquoise flower, so I think the nose is going to go right in here. And I'm going to need a skinnier stringer to get into that spot, so let's heat up some of this light ivory. And I like to lay down a little bit of cheeks also, as well as the nose. But I like to have a little bit of control while I'm doing it. So I'm going to pull this to be a little bit skinnier. And the way I do that is I heat up a small gather. Then I go to the end of my mandrel and heat that up. And I hang it down and touch down and pull back up and gently pull it into a fat stringer, essentially. And that's plenty fat enough, or thin enough. I just need to let it cool a minute. So now it's cooled. So when I'm pulling it, of course, I'm also careful to know how far up the hat's going to go. And even if I want to bring it up higher, there's still plenty of room. Let's keep everything warm, though. Okay. We decided that goes straight in the back, so this is where the nose and cheeks are going to go, and we're going to put down just a little bit across here, which is where the nose and cheeks will be. Make it a little bit wider. Okay, so I laid down just a little bit of the ivory, and over the top of that, I'm going to put the cheeks and the nose. And then, of course, I'm going to bring the hat down lower. But that kind of gives me like a landing pad where I can base everything else off of. So let's add in the cheeks now. And those are going to be fat dots. And they're going to be lower on the pad. And then the nose, of course, is going to be a tiny bit higher. And while those are cooling, we're going to heat up the rest of this. Keep it warm. And then let's add a nose. I don't want the area where the nose is getting added to be too warm, because then it just spreads out way too much. And I'm dropping it in. If it starts sinking too much, you turn it upside down, right? So that the nose starts drooping down a bit as it's cooling. That way it stays like it's sticking out enough. There we go. The nose is sticking out plenty. And we know that we're going to bring Beard across in through there. And we're also going to need to put some sleeves on him also for his hands to be able to do something. I think we ought to do that now before we add the hat, because sometimes the hat or the beard helps cover up connections that aren't that great or whatever. Okay, so I've got a little bit of the coral heated up, and we're going to go over the top and add an arm. And it's just a little line, isn't it, that sticks out a tiny bit. Now, if we're going to add a hand onto it, we want to be sure that the line doesn't go too far down. And let's add one on this side also, and it's going right over a vine. So you want to put the vine down first, because it's really hard to put it down once the sleeve's on there. And let's heat them up. Well, that arm is cooling a little bit, and then we'll see. I think that one might be a little short, and we have to add some more. See how it's a little short? Now, if you have a hard time adding onto it, you can always add a hand that's sticking out. You can put him holding something that takes care of that. There's always a plan B for everything you do, or usually at least. You just kind of change your design and work with it. Okay, so he's got sleeves now. If we wanted to add any decorations, now would be a good time. And I don't think I'm going to, but how about if I give him just a little bit of color at the end of it, as if it were a stripe at the cuff or something like that. And that's so easy to do. You just melt a little bit of glass, turn it upside down, add a dot, and then flatten the dot. And when you flatten the dot, it creates a little cuff or an end of a sleeve. And that's how, if you wanted to do striped little sleeves, you'd add a dot, flatten it, add some more of the base color, flatten it, and you can go all the way down and add some pretty cool little, very concise stripes onto something instead of trying to go around in circles. Because I've tried it the other way, and I really think this is easier. Okay, and so let's say that your connection isn't so good, or it's right over a vine like this one is. So what I'll do is make sure either his beard covers the area that's not so pretty, or maybe give him long hair that he's wearing. There are other ways to take care of that problem. You don't need to worry about it. So there he is. His beard's going to cover a lot of this. You can see the flower, the leaves, and some of the other flowers too on this. It's your choice. As I'm looking at this now, do I want to add a couple more little flowers or viney things along the bottom? It's possible that they would be able to show. So let's give them just a little something else. Let's put a vine down at the bottom, just in case it ends up showing. So there's a little bit of green. And I'm doing some dots for leaves. And then we'll add some dots for little berries and flowers, and that will give him a little bit more variety down there in case his beard doesn't cover it 100%. Because why not? We can. I'm just doing the 3 little dots on it. There, something for underneath the beard. Okay, so he's got more stuff on his shirt, more flowers on it. He's got a little design on the sleeves. We can add some beard, and then we'll add the hat over the top of it. So let's start adding his beard. And this is my encased white, which is white with clear over the top of it. And I start under his nose and bring it on down. Now, if my flowers are still hot, I don't want to go over them quite yet, but these have cooled. And it's your choice how much you want to show. If you want to show some of his flowers underneath, then don't have it cover everything. If you go, I just am over that, then cover up whatever you want to. I want some of the flowers to show. Heck, that's part of the fun of summertime. So some of them are showing. And then I'm going to give him some hair that comes up high, but his hat's going to come down lower also. But I'm covering up some of those sleeves. And I like to bring it all the way up high. I'm going to add more layers of hat, and it's going to come out farther. But I kind of think it's kind of fun to have it all over the place. I like crazy beards. Okay, so you can see it's kind of all over. He's going to need more hat next. And let's bring that out. And he's got his Hawaiian shirt on, bright pants, summertime hat. There's going to be more that we're going to add along with the hat, so hang on for that too. So I'm going to go down way low, and I'm going to bring in the hot glass right next to where his cheeks and nose and hair is. And I'm going to melt a little bit more before I go down further along the back side. And we're going to connect up with the other low piece that we started with. See how we went way low, brought it down low. You can still see the flower, but we brought it all down. Now if you need to move it around, this is a good time. Take your brass tool, heat up your glass, and you can just push it wherever you want it to go. You want it a little thicker? Push it down a little thicker. This is the right time to do it. If you don't have enough glass to push where you want it, add a little more glass before you do that. But as you're pushing glass around, be careful of your other details. You don't want to lose your other details that you've already done. Okay, so we've got that pushed down a little bit. Now let's add some more glass to this hat. I use a lot of glass on the hats. Let's add a little more. And I'm just slowly going around the circle as the glass melts on my rod. I like wide hats. And here we go. We're adding more onto this hat. It's getting thicker, which I like. Now, if you're using Zachary, I've found that the color can't get too close to the combs. And you want to be sure that there's not too much propane or gas in your flame. Make it a little more oxygenated if you can, because otherwise sometimes kind of a grayish hue comes up through the glass. A little too much gas on it. So if you have it more oxygenated or you hold it farther out, that works the best. Okay, so now he's got a nice big hat that we can either add flowers to, we can add other things. One of the things I was thinking of was that it might be fun to give him a pair of sunglasses. Don't you think that'd be fun? And seeing that he doesn't have eyes, the sunglasses are going to go over the hat down near the nose. And we're just going to make some dots, and I have a dark green here. You can do whatever color you like, and I'm going to make it thinner so it's easier to manipulate. So I'm pulling a thick stringer and letting it cool, waiting for it to set up. There we go. Let's keep the bead warm though in between. And we're going to heat up a little ball, and we're going to put one dot there. We're going to press it just a little bit. Kind of sunglasses-ish. I'm going to do a little line across his nose, and you don't have to do the line if you don't want, but I think it helps. You could even do the line first if you want, and then cover it with the dot. That would probably work really well too. Now let's do a dot on the other side. We'll finish up these sunglasses that he's wearing. Oh, he's a hip guy, isn't he? One more dot, and I'm doing it just over his cheeks. Now all of this is optional, but I thought, well, let's make it a little more summery. I think sunglasses are just what he needed there. And then what you could even put like a scuba mask or something else if you prefer that. And I'm thinking maybe how about a palm tree on his hat? That sounds kind of summery. So the way I would do that is I would take a piece of brown of some sort, and let's make a trunk going across. I haven't made a palm tree in a while. These are kind of fun. And I'm going to go on an angle, and I'm going to go about halfway to 2/3 up on an angle. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go downwards. I'm going to leave it kind of raised. And I'm going to add just a little bit more to widen the trunk. This is the trunk. And I'm going to show you a trick for making palm trees, because right now doesn't even look like a trunk exactly, but watch this trick. Especially if you have encased brown, that would work even better, like ivory with a brown over the top of it. And then if you take a razor or a sharp blade and you warm it up, you can make little X's on it. I go chop, chop, chop. See how it's starting to, that's how you'd make rope also, isn't it? Don't forget, if you've got Zachary, keep it out in the flame. And if I want little Xy type things, I'll go back and do the same thing on this other side. I'm just barely heating it up. Okay, so now we have a palm tree there. And let's add some leaves. I still have this two-colored one. And that was just made by having a main base of green and then striping another little color on it, another green on it, flattening it a little bit and pulling it out like a stringer. Okay, so let's do some palm leaves on this. We're going to warm up where the palm leaves are going to go, which is the rest of the hat pretty much. And let's heat it up. I'm kind of figuring out what I'm doing as I'm going. And we're just going to swoop down a bit and swoop a little bit more. There we go. That's the start of a palm tree. And let's do another one on the other side. I'm going to go up a little bit and then down. I can do a little more. One more. Up off of the top. And let's make that one a little bigger. We're going to just add a little bit more to it. Okay, now we got a palm tree. Can you see that? Huh. There we go. We're at the beach. What I like to do on palm trees is kind of pull out the bottom just a little bit so it looks like it's got a little bit more to it. So I'm just heating up the bottom edge and just giving it just a little bit more. See how I added some little bumpy things to it? We're going to do the same on this one. I'm just pulling out the bottom edge just in a few little places, and we'll do the same on the top one. You see, a lot of people heat things up and they press them in right away, and I understand that, but me, I like to have room to play a little bit. So now he's got a palm tree. You could even add some turquoise around if you want or something like that, but I think that's enough. You could add coconuts, but be careful because sometimes coconuts look funny. I think that's enough with a palm tree. Okay, so now we've got to decide, do his pants need any decoration or should we leave them as is? I think we should leave them as is, but I think we'll probably want to add something to make them a little flatter along the bottom. And what should he be holding? We need the ivory for hands. So does he need a drink? Does he need to have a hand that is ready to hold something else? What do we want to give him? Let's give him a little bird, because I love putting birds on everybody, and I guess we better make it kind of tropical also, huh? So I'm adding a little extra ivory for his hand there. And I'm just taking a pair of pliers or anything that mushes, and I don't want it too mushy, but I want to give the bird a place to hang out. So now we have a place going out there like that. So we're going to add 2 dots onto it, 2 big dots. And let's do a bright green bird. And this is pea green, and I'm just going to heat up a small gather. I'm going to put that in his hand. And I just I made a dot and then pulled it off to the side a little bit. And let's add a tail coming down across the bottom. It's nice to see that. This one's got a head on it, but it's pretty small. Let's add a little bit more for a head. And meanwhile, let's warm up the rest of them. So now he had the dot, and we added a swoosh for the tail, and we added a little bit more of a dot there. And let's give him some wings of a deeper green, maybe? Yellow. What do we want? Well, how about his sunglasses color? We'll give him some green of that color. So we're going to give him some wings, which is just a dot and pull. And a dot on the other side and pull. So now you got a bird. And I think just a little bit of a beak, and we have a little bit of brown left over from the tree. I don't think you need to add eyes to it. There we go. I just did a dot and pulled it out. Now he's got a bird that he's holding. And let's just finish up the bottom of his pants. Should we give him a stripe around it? Oh, remember how we made a little handle so that we would have a little extra? Here we go. There's our little extra. Meanwhile, we're keeping him warm. This is pretty intricate. So beginners, let's talk for a minute. If you're a beginner, what I suggest you do, you've seen how we do a more complicated one. And I don't expect you to do all of the things, but how about if you make a gnome in summer colors, you put a flower on his shirt, maybe you can add the 2 dots for sunglasses if you want, maybe put a flower or something on his hat. Make him in bright colors. If you want to add something, you could also have him holding a ball for a beach ball or something else if you prefer. You can do lots of different things just to give him a summer look. And I'm going to give you a hint that next month I'm going to teach you how to make bead stands for these too, so they don't all have to be wearable. I'm going to teach you how to make settings for them. So please try this. And let's look at this up close. We've got our little gnome with his palm tree, his little bird, the back. And I'll hold him in place for a second. I hope you had as much fun as I did. And this is Marcy Lamberson. Don't forget to subscribe on my YouTube channel, and you can also follow me on Instagram or friend me on Facebook. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.